Welcome to Red Hot Mindset. I am so glad you chose to tune in today because it is going to be another special episode interviewing a 2020 Boston mother runner about her struggle victory stories. Today's guest knows what it's like to train with a packed schedule, and she gives great tips on how to ensure time to train in busy seasons. She has 3 kids in competitive sports and works in the fitness industry as a personal trainer and fitness instructor. She's taught 3 to 4 classes in the morning, done one-on-one training with clients in the afternoon, and still found time and energy to get her miles in. Suzuka Hetterich runs to clear her head, and her life motto is, if I can't find the answer to my problem during my long run, there won't be an answer. We talk more about this in the episode, and it's gold. She completed 14 marathons and many other races, including ultras, obstacle courses, and triathlons. She's a mother of 3, ages 16, 14, and 11. She used to think those people who are running on beautiful days had nothing better to do. And she came up with excuse after excuse when she had to run in school. And now, here she is paying hefty prices to run at various races without hesitation. You're going to love this episode. It's inspiring and it's full of golden nuggets. So let's get chatting. Well, welcome, Suzuka. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm super excited to share your story and for you to just kind of share with listeners your struggle victory story and what running has meant to you. I'd love for you just to share a little bit about your background and your family before we get kind of into it all.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a mother of 3 children. I have 16-year-old girl, 14-year-old boy, and 11-year-old. And I'm also a fitness professional and personal trainer. And I started running in 2011 when my friend wanted to do 5K. And I was the one who used to come up with a whole bunch of excuses not to run, away from running.
Totally
I
get
used to make fun of those people who run on Sunday morning, like, don't they have anything else better to do? But now I use running as a therapy, just my own time away from everything.
I love it. How did that transition? Did it transition right when you started running, or was it like, did it take a while for you to start feeling that way?
Well, I was going to do 5K. And when I say I would do it, I'm the person who puts 100% into it. So when my girlfriend said, let's do 5K in downtown Chicago, here I am like trying to come up with training plan to make the best of it. And I joined my local running group and I was ready to go. And my friends all said, let's just not do that. Skip the running part and we're not doing 5K. So I was kind of lost and I said, well, I got to still do it. So instead of 5K, I did 10K. And from there, I'm like, oh, I can do a little bit more. And next year I did half marathon. And from there, gradually, I still do not like first 2-3 miles. I always say like, why am I doing this?
That's funny. So that's kind of why you're a long distance runner then, right? Because you get into it and then you're feeling the flow and then it becomes your therapy.
Absolutely. I always say I'm like an old car. It takes a while to warm up. And once it starts, I can go for long distance.
Yeah, I agree. I almost think that's why a lot of people don't like running because they don't take the time to get to that point because it is hard. I think the first at least mile or 2 is hard. It's hard to get that heart going and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Well, so then you did your first marathon a couple of years after you started running, right?
2013, I did the first marathon in Chicago, supposed to be one and done, bucket list.
Oh yeah, that's what we all say, right? One and done marathon, but you cross that finish line and something happens. Tell me what your experience was like. What was your first marathon like when you crossed that finish line? What were the feelings?
First time I did it, I was super nervous. And it was a funny story is in that morning when I'm getting ready to go to start line, I met a group of Ethiopian elite runners. And they were like, so how long do you think it's going to take for you to finish? I said, well, this is my first time. I just want to finish somewhere around 4 hours and 30 minutes. And they look at me like, wow, that's amazing. You can run that long. And here I am thinking, you're gonna run 2 hours and what? It gave me such a hope that, um, for them, they said, I'm amazing that I can do this for 4 hours. And that day I went, my one goal was just to finish. Um, that was the year Boston Bombs happened.
Mhm.
And none of my family was able to be at the finish line. Nobody was able to stay in the finish line. So the last spot they would be able to cheer was like 25.5 mile mark.
Mm.
I ran right in front of my family, my husband, my kids screaming, waving, taking a video of me. I didn't even see them because I was so out of it. I didn't even know what I was doing. All I needed to do was cross that finish line. But when I crossed that finish line, I felt like, I don't know, I was like, I love it. But I felt like I got hit by a truck. Every part of my body hurt, but I loved it. And I
Oh,
took a year off because I needed to kind of regroup and focus. And then from 2014, I ran at least once, if not two races every year.
okay. And are they marathon length races or just any
Yes,
kind of races?
I've done anything from marathon to ultra, but I've only done up to 50 kilometer. So my next goal is someday I would like to do 50 miles.
Oh, awesome. Do you have a race in mind for that?
I've heard the lakefront in Chicago is great, so that's one thing I'm thinking. I'm not so much on the trail runner because I don't like snakes and
Me neither.
poison ivy and all that. So,
I don't like snakes either. We moved to Colorado, so I have done some trail running.
oh,
But I feel like the paths, at least the one I'm doing, are wide enough that I'm not gonna catch a snake too often. But yeah, that was
okay,
one of my big worries of trail running too,
right,
because I just
right.
oh, they're gross. My kids
That's
laugh
it.
at me. I have 3 boys, so of course they like snakes.
Oh
I think
wow.
it's hilarious that I don't, but that's okay. So I think that's so cool that you've done an ultra. I have thought about it just to say I've done it. And I have the Superior 50 in mind at some point up in Minnesota, but we'll
Oh
see if it
fun.
happens because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all those miles. We'll see. I think you can if you put your mind to it. But
Yes, absolutely. We
yeah,
always have a little bit more intent, right?
exactly. And that's the thing. I think that's one thing about running that I love is that you feel the pain and you feel
Yes.
the exhaustion, but even at the finish line, you can sprint a little faster, which means that you still had more in your tank. And
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, right? And you want to kind of hold on to it. But I think that there's something special about running for that reason because I don't know if we'll ever know what we're capable of because I don't know if we'll ever get to those points of
And I think we always, um, our minds stop ourselves. We are physically far capable, a lot farther than what we are doing, but in a watch, in a mind, keeps stopping us from achieving that goal.
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Mindset is huge. I think mental training, I'm very passionate about mental training, but I think mental training is just as important as the physical training because we have to, believe that we can do it. We have to train our mind to when that pain comes, that exhaustion and pain comes, that we can keep going. And obviously, knowing if it's pain that we need to stop or if it's pain that is okay to push through. But the
And
mind is a
absolutely.
muscle.
I used to think all those elite runners and fast runners or Boston runners, I thought they run pain free. I just thought they're just born to run. I'm so much in pain, but they must enjoy it.
Oh my gosh, they look pain free, right? I've seen
Yeah,
you watch
yes,
the end of the race and
still.
you can't tell.
Until 2018, though, when Des Linden was running in the rain and when she was shivering and biting her lips, and I thought, ooh, maybe she's in pain too.
Yeah, you see that they're not immortal, right? That
Right.
they really are human, and as
Yes.
humans, maybe they're
Yes.
pushing their pace faster, but it doesn't mean that they're not experiencing the things that we experience on the race course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love it. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that way because I've thought
Right.
the same. Like, what? They don't even look like they're. It's hard. I don't.
Right.
I want to look like that.
I know. They're bouncing and so fast and
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. So your first marathon was a success, obviously, because you ran more. When did
Oh,
you
yes.
decide that like qualifying for the Boston Marathon was a goal that you had?
I don't think until when I first ran 2013, that was my one and only goal was just to finish. I didn't care about the time. And and when I first started to run marathon, I didn't even know what was Boston Marathon all about.
Mm.
And as I started to like run half marathon and especially that 2013 with Boston Bombs, that's when I started to learn, oh, like you need to qualify or you need to raise a lot of money to run those races. But I always thought I'm just doing marathon, and then there is a very fast people who does Boston, but that was never on my path because
Mhm.
I never thought I could reach that, and I never thought I was one of them.
Yeah. So when did you figure out, hey, maybe I'm capable of this? When did that become a
So
reality?
2016, I ran Chicago Marathon, and I ran to raise money for one of my friends who lost her son.
Mm.
And I thought, I'm going to run for him. I had his picture, I had his tattoo, his name, and I was just, this race is not about me, for him. And maybe my Garmin watch went blank.
Oh
So
no.
I just did not know where am I running and how fast I was running. I just kept going, and I'm like, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm going to do everything I got and run hard, just like he fought his cancer.
Mm.
And when I crossed the finish line, I did not know what time I finished. That year, my goal was maybe I was able to go sub 4, because something that's so big about running marathon is sub 4. So that was my goal. I crossed the finish line. I look up the clock, and clock said 3:58, 50 something. And I'm like, oh, I did it, less than 4 hours. And then when oh, did that clock start when I started, or did that clock start when Elite started? I wasn't sure. I called my husband, said, I just finished. And he goes, you did really great. You missed Boston by 3 minutes.
Wow.
And that's the first time I said, maybe I need to train harder. Maybe Boston is in my reach.
Yeah.
In 2016, that was October. In 2017, I made a goal and I trained hard and I failed miserably. I went back to like 4 something, 4:15, 4:15, something like that. I'm like, oh shoot, maybe Boston wasn't my game. But the difference was I always had an excuse. I was
Oh.
busy. My kids had this. I wasn't able to do this. And I maybe wasn't ready to reach that star. And 2018, I said, I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to be very selfish mom. And weekend, I may miss the breakfast with my family, but this is important for me. And I'm going to do this one last time. Try really hard this 5 months of training. And if I fail it, I'm going to be okay with it. But let me try hard. And my family was very supportive.
Mm.
And in April, I watched Boston Marathon 2018, people running in rain and monsoon, and it touched me. And week later was my race day to qualify for Boston, and I ran that race, and it was downpouring just like Boston, and I kept picturing Des Linden's face, and I kept asking, why am I doing this? And I said, hold on, I owe myself everything I got to succeed this. I put 5 months sacrifice my missing my breakfast with my kids, or maybe games or meats or whatnot. So I said, this is your last one, just do it. I put every excuse aside and I ran, and I made a Boston with 9 minutes cushion.
Wow. That's
I see
awesome.
one picture. That was the one moment I knew I made it when I crossed that finish line. My heart was full.
Oh, I
My
bet.
husband was there, my best friend was there, and it was amazing.
What were your do you remember your emotions as you crossed the finish line?
Um, I was so tired maybe last mile. I'm like, oh, maybe this is wasn't meant to be. I just have to keep doing it. And my husband's like screaming, you have a mile left. No more excuse, just go. And it was very small race, so I could see every spectator, and I ran. And when I crossed that, knowing I made it, I was so relieved and I was so proud of myself. Um, I'm the kind of person, it was never good enough. Like whatever I do was not good enough because I always have a high expectation for myself. But that time I'm like, I did it. This is good enough. And but then like, oh, 9 minutes and 57 seconds. Shoot, I should be 33 seconds faster.
Isn't that runners do that, don't we?
Then I missed the week, the week 1, week 2, week 3, like Boston um, application process. But no, I was happy.
I love it. I love it. I think there's something about that because like my first time I qualified, it was 3:30:06.
Yeah.
And it was a good, I mean, it was about 5 minute buffer, but I'm going, oh, 6 seconds. I could have
Yeah.
been three, it's just the way
Yeah.
we think. And
Yeah.
it's probably what drives us to the next one and the next one because we're never satisfied. But
Absolutely.
so after you qualified for Boston, obviously, I mean, you had to sacrifice some things like breakfasts on Saturdays with your family and different things. How did you bring your kids along on your journey, on your goal? What did they experience when you hit a goal?
Um, Kids knew this was important for me. And they always ask, like, why you want to do this? What are you going to get out of it? Or, like, do you want to, that kind of question. And I said, I just want a validation that I can do it too, because there is, 30,000 people run Boston Marathon every year. And I just not good at raising money. So I'm like, this is one way to get this Boston ticket. So I want to do it. And, they knew. Um, Sometimes they ask like, how many miles mom are you doing? Or what time are you coming home? Or, I try to go super early so I get home before the activities that I don't miss it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a balance with, and like they knew our Friday pasta night, oh, mom, have a long, run tomorrow. We get to eat pasta again.
I love it. I love it how
And
they
it's
equate
funny
dinner
because
to what we're running.
usually they say, oh, thank goodness your marathon's over. We're sick and tired of your pasta dinner on Friday.
That's hilarious. We're like, I just want tacos or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
So I know that you have three are in
yeah,
competitive sports.
yeah.
What is that? I mean, what was that like? Well, are they all in the same sport? Are they all different?
No, so my oldest is a competitive swimmer,
Okay.
and she just had a high school conference. She did amazing this past weekend. My son is in travel ice hockey,
Okay.
and during the season, which is now, as my girls usually joke, like our family interrupted by hockey season because his hockey schedule is insane. But his love for hockey is far bigger than my love for running. I respect that. And my youngest, she started as a gymnast, and now she started to have a passion for basketball. So that's what she's working on. But I'm still counting on one of them will become a runner someday.
Yeah.
So I get to run. My oldest runs sometime, but she never wanted to run with me. She said I talk too much.
Oh, that's funny.
So nobody run with me, but that's okay. And I usually use my running time just for myself. Sometimes I get to run with my friends, but now that's my time to either make. I teach fitness class, so I usually make like workout plan during my run.
Oh yeah.
I make a shopping list while I run. I don't necessarily remember what was on my list, but at least I go through what I need.
I love it.
Um, yeah, and sometimes, like throw the curveball, I'll think about it during the long run about relationship, friendship, and, problem with kids and whatnot. And I said to myself, like, if I'm going out for running for hour and a half, think about that program and cannot have a solution, then there won't be one. So let's just forget about it, move on. And, that's kind of my philosophy.
I love that. It's kind of a reflection time. For me, I'm kind of similar. I like to um I get revelations, or I just have this time to reflect on what's going on in life, or I come up with things I write about while I'm running. It's so funny how that inspiration comes. And I always say, people always ask me why I run and stuff. I'm like, well, I solve the world's problems well on my
Yes.
runs, but no one listens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how it is. This episode is brought to you by my book, Mind Over Marathon: Overcoming Mental Barriers in the Race of Life. If you feel like you just need a mindset shift because you are going after a goal and need some direction and encouragement, this book is for you. It will help you to ignite a passion and purpose in your life, clarify your unique game plan, and build confidence in who you are. At the end of each chapter are a quick faith devotional, thought-provoking questions, and a practical application that you can implement immediately. This book is about discovering a dream and taking it from inception to a flourishing finish. Running is optional. You can snag 2 free chapters at www.redhotmindset.com/mindovermarathon. Dream huge, and remember, you are a winner, just run your race. So you're a fitness professional.
Yes.
Your schedule when you were training has been pretty crazy, right? You'll teach.
That's the hardest part to balance because before this pandemic, I used to teach anywhere from 2 to 3 classes a day, an hour long, and that's usually starts at 9 o'clock. And you know, before when my kids were actually physically going to school, I have my oldest leaves at 6:30, my middle one goes leave to 7:30, my youngest one leaves at 8:30, and then I leave to teach.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes and then right after that, I'm also a personal trainer, so I train people. And the only time I'm able to run is either 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, or middle of the afternoon. And where I am, I live in Chicago, suburb of Chicago. It's either super hot or super cold and ice.
Right.
So often I had 2 hours run in the treadmill, or I just go out and run outside like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But that's the only time I have. Again, I have to put that excuse aside. You're going to do this, it doesn't matter. And one of my friends once told me, there's never a bad weather. It's the bad clothes you have on. If it's hot, take it off. If it's cold, wear more layers and go out and run, which is true. So
Yeah.
I start to do that, and I start to enjoy that time alone. But sometimes it is hard for my body because I'm not 20 years old anymore. So teaching 2, 3 classes and training and then run 2 hours, I really needed to focus on often on stretching
Mm.
and foam rolling and soak up in the bathtub, because if I neglect those, I have to pay for the price.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because when you're teaching your classes, I'm assuming you're kind of doing the workout with them. You might not be going all
Yeah.
out, but I used to teach fitness classes too. I kind of, when I was trying to qualify the first time, and I felt the same. It was like I was almost overworking myself. So how do you balance that and make sure
Um,
that you're not overtraining?
so on Friday, so if Saturday is my 20 mile or 60 miles run, on Friday strength class, I go a little bit lighter weight, but I do still do cross training. And then the members, if I know the members knows my cue, I can maybe just do 8 reps instead of 30 reps with them. And I kind of cheated that way. So I can have my little rest, prepare for the next run. Then I was always honest with my client and my members and say, hey, I have 20 miles tomorrow. So I'm going light, but you go heavy. And they're like, oh, here we go. She's running again.
I love it.
Yeah.
They understand. They
They
might not
understand,
understand the runner life.
yeah, and they see me sometime on the street and gave me a little honk, little cheers, and yes.
I love it. So with balancing competitive sports and your work schedule, what are some tips that you have? What are some things that worked for you in order to be able to get everything in, but still be present with your family?
So my kids comes first. I always know, but that doesn't mean I can be present at their practice, every practice, but I try not to miss games and meet. So I put that on the schedule and I put my work and my training around it. That means sometimes, yes, you've got to get up super early.
Hmm.
And, usually I have my clothes in the bathroom so I can kind of sneak out from the bedroom and bring the change downstairs and change quickly and then quickly go out of the house. And sometimes I just have to circle in front of my house until the sun goes, comes up so I can go a little bit further up because, we female runners have to be careful to go out and run in the dark.
Yeah.
And not necessarily my friends want to wake up at 4 o'clock and run with me. So,
Hmm.
and sometimes, I remember Saturday, I only had that particular time window to do my 18 miles run. It was downpouring, it was dark, so I have to do on the treadmill. So I did like 6 miles and I kind of went outside 6 miles, come back in 6 more miles. And, you have to play around and do what you got to do. And I also made a piece. Sometimes your training says 16 miles, but if you can only do 14 miles, that is okay. You
Mm.
know, we just have to do best.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I think sometimes we get so rigid in our training where it's like, well, it
Yes,
says I have to do this, so I have to do this. And then we freak
yes,
out. Actually, that's probably worse for us than just saying, you know what, this is what I can do today. So I think that's great that you were able to do that. Because I have been both ways. I've been very rigid with my training
yeah,
where I was like, to a T, I have to get here. And then I've been like, more recently, I'm kind of like, I'm going to do my training, but it might look differently than what I completely want, like
yes,
I just have to go with whatever because what's more important to me is my family, and different
yeah,
things. So I have to
yeah.
prioritize. And I think that's something that you're talking about. You're talking about that prioritizing, but you're also talking about the fact that if you want it bad enough, you're going to find the time. There is time in your day to get in whatever it is that you want to do. It's a
And
matter
it's
of
all about planning because, I have a client who always, we moms do everything for kids. If kids have a soccer game or a football game, a hockey game, we put that in the calendar, make sure, our children get to the place where they need to be. But then comes to our own running or training or maybe going to the gym, we kind of say, oh, we didn't just make it. No, we're going to put that in the calendar too and make it happen.
yes,
We have to be, we have to take care of ourselves and we have to be happy to make someone else happy. And that's, I think I learned that along this journey of chasing unicorn, like we said, right?
yes,
Yeah. And to me, I always had here is marathoners, and that's who I am. And there was Boston marathoners, and I so wanted to be in that circle. And because Boston is so special and so historical event, and I feel like that was important to me. But for someone else, that may not be it. Just to get to the gym is important. Then put that in the calendar and make it happen.
right, right. Because
Yeah.
everyone's goals look different, and it's okay for your goal not to be this
Right.
extravagant thing. It's
Yeah.
just important to prioritize staying healthy, and
Yes.
those that's a good goal in itself. So, what made Boston so special for you? What drove you to do it, other
Well,
than
that
wanting to be a
2013 was my first marathon, and that Boston bomb hit me really hard because number one, there were so many people who weren't able to finish that race. And I think marathon is the sports that we train 4 months to 6 months for one day event. Every other sport, you have game this week and you have game next week. But marathon is one time and then there's no more, or your body has to rest and retrain for another one. And I said, like, oh, that just breaks my heart that they couldn't able to finish. And but when I see that Boston Strong came along and Boston Runners Unite so strongly. I thought like, oh, I want to experience that. I want to be part of that history, just 1 year. And that was my goal. And I told my husband too, I just want to do Boston 1 year. And my husband, of course, said, yeah, yeah, you just say 1 year and watch this. And sure enough, I went 2019 was my first Boston Marathon. And obviously I registered for 2020 Boston Marathon. And I'm hoping to go back in 2021, but
I love it. And that's so funny because my husband did the same thing. He just kind of laughed at me when I said, "Oh, I think this is my last marathon or whatever."
yeah,
He's like, "Uh huh, I'll believe that when I see it." But I
yeah,
think there's something about that 2013 Boston because, so I tried to qualify in 2012. I didn't hit it, but people were messaging me on that day, like, "Are you there? Are you okay?" Because they
oh,
thought, they knew that was a goal of mine, and I think it drove me more too. It almost became, I say, it almost became a duty, but to me it was like more American pride too along
yes.
with it, where it just gave it a little bit more specialness, a little bit more drive of like, I have to do this now. I don't know if you
Yeah,
felt.
and then I remember 2013 when I ran Chicago, my son at that time, he was 6 or 7 years old, looked at me and said, Mom, how do you know you get to cross the finish line? What if you die?
Oh,
And that, you know, broke my heart. And I said, son, we cannot be afraid.
yeah.
We need to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to meet you with the medal on my neck. And that's what I did. So when I went to Boston Marathon, my oldest wasn't able to come, but my younger two children came.
Okay.
My oldest did not want to miss high school work and catch up all that. So my two younger children with my husband came, and they said they thought this was the biggest festival that they ever been to, and they said this was amazing. They love the expo, they love the energy from the city, and they got to watch, I mean, really first class elite runners, because they were cheering, they were spectating the race, and they said it was amazing. They were so fast.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I love when we can bring our kids in on our goals and bring them
yes,
to experience it, because I think there's something about it, and I think it's motivational for them too to see us win, to see us.
absolutely. And I, always tell my kids, I said, look, mommy, I was not always good at running, but I try hard and training makes us stronger. So even the day you may not feel it, but you got to work harder for your goal.
Mhm.
And if I can send that message to my kids and leading by example, I think that is good.
Yeah, I love it. And I love leading by example. So tell
Yes.
me a little bit about your 2019 experience. Like, tell me about the race. What was it
Oh
like? Did
boy.
you have a goal? Did you just want to experience it?
In Chicago Marathon, when I register, usually you get the wave, and I'm like wave one, and like C means third one from the start. And Boston Marathon, I was like wave three, like all the way back of the pack. And Boston Marathon, you don't get to start until later, so I'm starting like 10:30.
Mhm.
um, but Expo, I was super excited. I see all those people with Boston Marathon jacket on, and I didn't wear mine because I always believe I need to finish it in order to wear. That's only me. This is celebration jacket. You earn it, please wear it. But that's just me. I want to finish it.
Mhm.
So at the expo, I look at all those people. Like I was a ninth grader on a school bus, and I was super nervous. Like everyone looked super fast, and I'm like a freshman in a high school. um, but I just loved it. I win that race. I said to myself, now enjoy every moment. Take a picture, soak up, and I high five all the stranger, all the kids, dogs, Santa Claus, and things, screaming tunnel with the girl. I did not kiss the girls. I didn't go that far, but I enjoyed it, every minute of it. So 2019, but where I trained for marathon. Now I know why people call it Chicago is a pancake race because we don't have hills like that. And
Right?
oh boy, my quads, my hamstring, my rib cage, everything was hurting next day. But that medal, I earned it.
Oh my gosh. There's nothing like it. So
Yeah.
you crossed the finish line. What went through your mind? Did you go, I want to do this again? Did you, what were your,
Um, during the race, when I hit the big hill, I said to the person that I don't even know, we are kind of talking the next one. I said, this is the Heartbreak Hills. And the lady said, this is nothing hill. There's no name for it because this is doesn't consider hills in Boston. And here I'm like, oh shoot, I'm in big trouble. And I kept running. So when it was like up and down, when I saw that finish line, I was done. I was like, I have nothing left.
yeah.
And when the volunteer gave me a medal, yes, I cried and I was so happy. But it was downpouring rain. So, from there, I did not know I have to walk like 2 miles to get reunited with family. And I did not know where my families were. But yes, we found each other later. And I probably wear that medal for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool. There's nothing like the first experience. And I'm glad that you just enjoyed it too and
Yes.
just took it all in because that's my unfinished business. I didn't do that my first marathon or my first Boston. So I want to go back and just experience it. You qualified again for 2020 and excitement comes with the fact that, hey, we're going to do this, family's going to come, whatever it is. But then we find out it is essentially canceled. What were your first thoughts when you heard that news?
I knew it's coming, but when Boston Marathon announced that officially, it crushed me
Mhm.
because at that time, everything was canceled and our training already started. So we were already halfway in this training, and now they're telling us there is no marathon. And my friends and my family all say, well, you knew it. And I said, yes, I knew it, but I had hope.
Mhm.
And it really broke me down to pieces. And I had choices to make whether I'm just going to stop and give my body a rest
Mhm.
or I will continue to run. But at that time, weather was nice here in Illinois, but we did not know how much longer we could actually um, run outside because any day city could say shut down and you need to stay. So I was saying to my husband, like, I think he's the one who always said, you need to slow down, take a break, your body needs rest. When I said, I think I'm gonna stop and get body much needed rest, my husband like, oh no, you're not stopping now. And I'm like, okay, he probably did not want me to stop because he thinks if she doesn't run, she's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, well, you're right. And he goes, you always gonna have an access to outside. They're not gonna shut street down. And if so, do it until that happens. So that's what I did. And I continue to train, but not as 100%, because I knew race is canceled. So I kind of did little bit less effort, may say, but I did run. I decided to continue to train and decided to do my own Boston Marathon here in my hometown that Patriots weekend,
Oh,
and
that's
I did.
so. What was that like? Did you have people at water
Um,
breaks? Did you have cheer sections?
so I only told my family and maybe not even my friends. I only said to few of running friends because they understand. My friends, understand, but if you're not runner, you really don't know the depths of 26.2. And I did not want to bother their weekend. So I said to one of my running friends and one another. So one friend surprised me and made a cheer section like mile 9. That was super cool. I started right in front of my house. And all of a sudden, my husband's like, oh, because I said, I'm going. And he goes, oh, no, you're not going. And he started to play national anthem. And he
Oh,
read the little letters. And, I'm like, don't make me cry. I still have to do 26.2. And off I went. And that was my first 26.2 by myself. There was no aid station. It was hard. That was harder than any marathon that I've ever done.
yeah. You don't have any atmosphere. You don't have the
No,
adrenaline or any of that.
yeah, and the mile 20, 21, when your body tells you like slow down or stop or give up, there's no cheer saying you can do this, or there's no funny sign that somebody's holding to make me smile. And it was rough, but I don't like unfinished business, and I knew my family's waiting. So I came home, and all three children and my husband actually and my kids made a homemade finish line with Boston unicorn on the street and had a blue and yellow ribbons, which I didn't even know. And they actually waiting for me outside, and my kids like, hurry up, mom, we've been here too long. So I got to finish it, and that was nice.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And I love that they were like excited about helping you with that.
Yeah, and then I made a little like announcement in Facebook page to my friends that, Boston's canceled, but why don't we all run together and make like, um, this is supposed to be 124th marathon. Can we run 124 miles together? And all of a sudden, they're like, I'll do 2 miles, I'll do 3 miles. And next thing I know, like, oh, it's already 300 miles stretch. Well, can we do 1,000 miles? And actually, I created a group page, and over 1,000 people from all over the world joined. And I don't even know half of the people in that group because it was just a word of mouth, and people joined. And together, like we run over like 5,000 miles on that Patriot Monday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was amazing experience. I loved it.
Wow.
So we made it special.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because you didn't let your training go to waste either. You might as well use it and
Yes.
and enjoy it. And then, so it was postponed and then canceled.
Yeah.
So did you keep training then after that for September? And then
Yes, September, I booked the hotel. I was gonna go and I trained. And this time I was very hopeful because this is already, April to September, 5 months later. I thought it's gonna happen. So I did start training. Um, yes, I did doubt a little bit, but I kept training. And this time, mentally, I knew what's like to run 26.2 all by myself. And I actually did not tell anyone this time I'm gonna do it because I didn't even know I trained for it, but I wasn't sure which day I'm gonna do it because Boston gave us like 2 weeks window. But then the night before I told my husband like, well, kids calendar is clear tomorrow. I'm really mentally, I'm done. I'm gonna go tomorrow, wake up, and I'm gonna run 26.2. So no one knew, and this time I knew how horrible this is gonna be, or how hard it is to run 26.2. So I was mentally prepared, right? I was concerned about physical part, but mentally I was ready. So it wasn't as hard as my first virtual race this time, and my body reacted pretty well. So I ran, and I was glad it was done, but
yeah,
I completed.
And then you got to wear the jacket.
Well, no, I didn't. I waited until today to meet you for the special moment because I don't know. I felt really awkward because Boston, I know how hard the Boston course is. And I was telling my friend, like, first time when I did it in April, my friend said, well, you need to wear it. You run 26.2. And I'm like, I don't know if that's count. I was just in hometown. I don't know. And then this September one, I've said, I'm going to wear it. I did 2 virtual. I earned it. But then still like, ooh, there's no one around. Do I wear this? And,
Right.
but today, when I get to meet you and talk to you about my love of running, I'm like, this is it. This is the day I'm going to put
I love
my arms to the sleeves. And
Yeah. Because you do deserve to wear it because you qualified
yeah.
and you were supposed to be there. We were
And
all
this is,
supposed to be there.
right? It's a celebration jacket. So we need to celebrate our accomplishment, even though it wasn't Hopkinton to Boston.
Right.
It's 26.2, it's 26.2.
And I think it almost probably was harder than being
Yes,
in
it was
Boston because
harder.
I mean, you're by yourself. Some people got to run with others, but most of
Yeah,
us ran by ourselves. And I do think that was harder because you just don't have the atmosphere and the cheering sections and the things to keep you going and the music and, just the historic part of Boston. So you
yes,
definitely deserve to wear that.
yes. And I'm so glad to have this.
Yes. So tell me, obviously 2020 looked completely different. None of us were at the start line in Hopkintown, but what would have made 2020 Boston your victory run?
Well, when I decided to register for 2020 Boston, you know, 2019 was for me to enjoy the race. And 2020, I had one goal. I wanted to qualify for Boston in Boston.
Mm,
And that was my goal. And that's why I trained hard. But then when everything shut down and everything started to cancel, running was the only thing that was the normal part of my life.
mhm,
Everything was so, still till this day, it's just different.
mhm.
And so, my goal for 2020 Boston virtual was just to keep my part of normal life running part, um, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's one thing that is special about running. Running
Yeah,
never got, I mean, the races got canceled, but running
right.
never got canceled. It was something, I mean, my two oldest boys are competitive gymnasts. And while they weren't able to be in the gym, I could still run. So I was
Yes,
really grateful for that. I felt
yeah,
bad. I mean, because I'm watching them not being able to do what they love because there's not much you can do outside of the gym in gymnastics.
yes.
And I still got to do what I loved. So I tried to be so grateful for what I had in that because it is my therapy. And when I
Right.
don't get it, I am crabby. So
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like my daughter, my oldest who's a swimmer, we don't have a swimming pool for her to practice, and she didn't get to do any of that. And my youngest at that time was doing gymnastic, on Zoom with coaches,
yes.
and that was so heartbreaking. But here I am. I just put a pair of shoes and go outside, and I still get to log in my miles. And I think I was so thankful that I had healthy legs to do so.
Right, exactly. And I think that's something that this year I don't think we'll ever take what we do for granted again
Yes,
because this
yes.
year has shown us that it can be taken away in a moment. And so,
And yeah, it's so sad like this fall because I live in Illinois, so Chicago Marathon October is my marathon every single year since 2013, and it is so weird not to go in that along with 45,000 people,
yeah,
um, and I hope one day we'll get back to it.
yeah, I think sooner than later. I definitely do.
Yes,
I have faith in that. But I agree. It's kind of, you can't really plan anything right now. You just have to wait it out and see what happens. So now, 2021 is kind of up in the air about what's going to happen. But you have some unfinished business at Boston? You want to go qualify at Boston, so I'm guessing that 2019 2020 isn't going to be the end of you being there. Are you going to work toward another Boston?
I'm gonna do one more Boston 2021. I hope to get back and I qualify in Boston. Whether I will go back to run with that qualifying time or not, I would like to just hit that goal and decide. And I start to think like I want to enjoy this running for many years to come. So may not necessarily always chasing the time goal
Mhm.
because that takes a lot mentally and physically. But I would like to do maybe 50 milers, or we'll see.
Yeah. Change
But
it.
definitely Boston is in my book.
I love it. I love it. So, if you could share one piece of advice or a tip for listeners just on achieving a goal or, going after it no matter what would that be?
Um, I always say 3 Ds. That's dedication, determination, and disciplines. When you have that, and you need to want it so badly, so that you will take every step to reach that goal.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Well,
Oh,
thank you so much.
it was so fun, Suzuka. I'm so glad that you were able to chat with me here today. I hope you had a good time, but I think my listeners, if they were listening, they got a lot out of it. There were a lot of really great tidbits in there as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
We packed a lot into this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you found those gold nuggets that Suzuka shared, I love that she shared these tips on how to train in the busy season and just the inspiration that she exudes and the go after it, let's get it done kind of attitude. The other takeaway that I had in this conversation is talking about how to not be rigid with our training plans or even with our goals. There has to be flexibility in there because life happens. And sometimes we do need to adjust. Sometimes we can't get the 18 miles in, but we can get 14, and that is okay. It's okay to not always hit exactly what the plan says because as long as we're making progress and doing something, we are making progress. So don't think you have to be super rigid in the plan. The plan is good and it's there to help you, but it's not there to be the end all be all. I hope you take this mindset with you this week. I hope it encourages you in your own goals and in whatever it is that God is working in your life today. In all things, I pray that you just run your race. I believe in you.